Welcome to The Needle, your new favorite wrestling show. I'm Robin Lundberg, along with my good friends Dave Seperson and Jean Chery. Jean Chery, we always have that back and forth a little bit when it comes to that. But basically, long story short, we started SI Wrestling a couple months ago. And we were really into it, and we were doing daily content, and you guys seemed to really like it. And then SI got hit with an RKO out of nowhere. So as a result, we figured we'd keep it going because we're not the types to lay down on the mat when we get knocked down. You might pick our arm up once, twice, but then it's going to pump like this, right, guys?
Yeah, we're ready. Gene, you go, my friend.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy how this kind of started organically, but at the end of the day, like, life does happen. But I'm happy. I'm with my guys. We get to continue this and get to share our love for pro wrestling with the rest of the fans. I'm excited, man. This should be fun.
Yeah, I've been a wrestling fan since I was 9 years old. I worked at WWE for 7 years. I have a ton of insight in that I hope to be able to share with everybody and just talk wrestling with my buddies. It should be a good time.
So we'll try to give you consistent episodes, but starting with this one, and it's a good day to talk wrestling because a lot of wrestling news out there, beginning with WWE and Netflix. And before we get into the nitty gritty of that deal and what property is going to be where, I think my main takeaway for something like this is, one, WWE was kind of ahead of the curve when they started WWE Network, because to me, that was the first go-to streaming service. But number two, it adds into the fact that doing something like this is a good idea because wrestling and the WWE in particular are really hot right now. When you see the amount of money Netflix, which is the premier, I mean, I know they need to keep subscriber base up and everything, but the number one streaming service, they just threw the bag at the Fed.
Yeah, so here's my thing. I think it's good for the organization. Like, WWE is making a ton of money. I think it's really smart for them business-wise, and they still have a lot of other properties they can sell. They have deals coming up. But that's where I think it's also really bad for the fan because, listen, we've gone through this with like the NFL and everyone was losing their mind because an NFL playoff game was on Peacock, and now everyone's kind of like, Raw's going to be on Netflix, but SmackDown's on potentially cable TV. Pay-per-views, I think, is on Peacock until 2026. Then who knows where it's going. So it's like, how many things do you have to own? As a fan, you want to be able to be like, where can I just find everything? That's why everyone loved the WWE Network. It was like, you had the pay-per-views, you had, all your shows besides the main ones. And now it's kind of like everything's a little bit everywhere, which I guess business-wise makes sense because you can sell all these properties. But for us, it's like, man, what do we do? So that's kind of where I'm like, I see both sides of it, but I'm okay. I have all those things, but for people who don't, I understand their frustrations.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but at the end of the day, wrestling fans want wrestling, so they're not going to care what network it's on. At the end of the day, they're going to pay that money. And most people have Netflix already. It's not like, oh my God, I got to buy Netflix. Like, to me, if you didn't have Netflix already, that's your loss regardless. But now that WWE is on, this is going to be dope. It's going to be a good time. And fans, they can never get enough wrestling. I think they're just happy that WWE is moving forward, like Robin said. They're ahead of the curve. I'm excited to see how it goes. If you're telling me we're going to be able to watch Monday Night Raw with no commercials, then I'm all for it, man. That sounds really dope.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a good time to be a wrestling fan for a number of reasons, as we just got into. And you got to give credit where it's due to the new people in charge, right? Triple H has done a great job with the program. And Nick Khan, he was my agent for like 2 seconds. And I didn't have the best experience, by the way, because I transferred over from an agent who I liked to him because he was a heavy hitter, and then he ghosted me. So personally, Nick, I'll still, we can still talk offline, and you can offer me any job you want. But, I don't have the greatest personal feelings for that because of the way it went down. But when you talk about just the results the guy's gotten done, you can't really front.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, listen, he's done a good job for their business, bottom line. And at the end of the day, he's a good businessman. He knows what he's doing. But, is what's good for business, what's good for the fans? That's always a debatable question.
But, part of that also is The Rock taking over as part of a board, whatever a board means. We've just dealt with the board at SI and the board crumbling beneath our feet. But The Rock is appointed to that position. And the most famous, I would say, wrestler of all time. When you go and you look at going beyond the business, I think it was Hulk Hogan, who we'll get to a little bit later, and what he might be able to do at the Royal Rumble or not. And then the Rock had the most successful post WWE career. He's now on the board, so he's getting asked the questions and doing the press tour. I found it interesting because he said he's going to play the long game. At the same time, while saying he and Roman would be the biggest match of all time. I want to know, are you going to do it or not, Dwayne? Are you going to get into the ring with your tribal chief or not? Gene, I know you don't agree with this, but sometimes I wonder if either he doesn't believe in his own ability to get back in the ring or he's scared of his familial connection in Roman Reigns.
I've said it before. It doesn't matter if we see The Rock in the ring. I'm just happy he's back in the WWE, even if it's only on the business side. What The Rock does is bring more eyeballs to the WWE, which ultimately means the wrestlers are going to be happy. Would I like to see Rock versus Roman? Absolutely. But I'm not going to hold out hope that it happens, because it seems like when he dropped that teaser a few weeks ago, should The Rock be at the head of the table, it almost seems like this is what he was talking about, was getting on the board and being back in the WWE. What the long game means, I have no idea. But if you're asking me, I think we're seeing, for anyone who thinks that it's going to be Rock and Roman at this year's WrestleMania, I'm kind of putting that to bed. I think it's Cody's year, especially after what we saw last night. I think if we're going to see Rock and Roman, it's going to be further down the line. I don't think fans should expect it to happen so soon. But I'm happy The Rock's back in WWE.
Further down the line, the Rock couldn't get through a people's elbow. Like, we're supposed to think, come
on, man.
Geriatric Rock is going to be able to do it?
Absolutely. Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Here's my big takeaway, and I think this might be lost a little bit in the shuffle. Is like, he took that job at the board because he also got the rights to the name The Rock, which is huge for his business. He's gonna be able to promote himself now as The Rock, sell stuff with that, on stuff, which is huge for him personally. So, will he get back in the ring? Nobody knows. Only he'll be the one to be able to tell us that. And if he comes back, it'll be great. We'll all be excited. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It's out of our hands. But we'll all be excited if he does come back. But should he? Absolutely. He needs one more good match. And I obviously, everyone wants to see him versus Roman.
Yeah, they've teased it too much at this point, right? Like, and he did it. It's his own fault. He came out on McAfee before he made his first SmackDown appearance and said it almost happened. Then he comes back again. Then he drops the head of the table line. Now he's saying this. At this point, if it doesn't happen, it feels like, a failure to some degree, even if it's not at this year's WrestleMania.
I don't know if we can blame him for that, though. The guy hasn't wrestled in how long? I feel like once Roman got big, the bigger it got, we expected it to eventually happen. I think we've gotten to a point where if it doesn't happen, people are going to say, yeah, Rock, he let us down. But I don't think Rock ever had in his bingo card, I'm going to fight Roman Reigns. Like, if this happens, it's going to be because of the fans.
I'm going to disagree, because if you watch Young Rock, they wrote in that show a Young Rock talking to young Joe Anoa'i, like, a match between us.
Where did that come from, though? That came from fan hysteria.
No, it still was written in by Rock's people. Like, he knew what he was doing in that moment. He started to plant the seeds. Like, everyone's been talking about it for a long time.
Already planted. He wanted to give the fans what they want, and that's what The Rock does. He is an entertainer, and ultimately, Roman and Rock will probably happen, but it might not happen when it needs to happen.
It could happen at the first Raw on Netflix if we're being real about it.
Honestly, I wouldn't be mad at that. Honestly, if you want to start off with a bang, January 2025, you put Rock and Roman, title or not, people are going to tune in.
Gene, both you and I are going to WrestleMania, and the build to that has started, obviously, with the speculation about Rock and Roman, but also with what's going to happen with CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins to a lesser degree. Seth Rollins came out and Gunther interrupted him. But you had the big confrontation with CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, which I thought was done brilliantly, because these are two very different guys, but their stories are kind of similar, given they both left the company. They were both in the biggest AEW match of all time, the biggest AEW confrontation of all time happened in WWE.
Yeah, that's a fact. And I'll tell you this, when I watched those two guys, especially when they went face-to-face, I might be gassing it, but it felt like Rock Austin back in 2001, because you've got two super popular baby faces that no one wants to boo, but both have very viable reasons as to why they want to main event WrestleMania. So it's kind of like, if you put those guys in the same ring, you're going to get fireworks. To me, I would prefer to see Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. To me, that's a match I cannot wait to see. Granted, it's probably not going to happen, but I can't wait for this Saturday Royal Rumble, because these two are going to lock up.
Yeah, that to me was the ultimate takeaway. It was an incredible promo. I loved it. They're both incredible superstars. But ultimately, like, this was a great drive to the Rumble. Everybody who watched that promo should be like, yeah, I want to go see those two lock up in the Rumble. And like to be frank, we don't know if they will. Like, they could have teased that, and then Cody comes out 1, Punk comes out 30, and they just never meet in the end. But obviously, we all know they're going to. So, yeah, it's an incredible build for that pay-per-view. And yes, it does have a lot of intrigue. I think everyone knows it's going to be one of them who's going to win the Rumble. The question is which one. I personally still want it to be Punk, because I think Punk, and I hope Rollins is healthy enough, would be just an incredible night 1 main event, and then Cody and Roman night 2, and there's a lot of different ways to get there. Or Cody Rock, we'll figure it out. But yeah, that's where I think it's going to go.
But I don't think Gene's wrong. They can now set up Cody and Punk for WrestleMania, and that is a money match. I mean, the end of the Rumble, I saw somebody bring this up. I think it was Sam Roberts, and he was spot on. It's kind of like Hogan and Warrior. You could definitely get to that sort of spot, or maybe HBK and Undertaker, that sort of spot with those two guys. But the Rumble, there's a lot of different ways it could go. They gave us the Gunther possibility, because maybe he could challenge Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Obviously, Punk could win and challenge Seth Rollins, if not Roman Reigns. Obviously, if Cody wins, I think he's going after Roman. But you're going to throw in the likes of Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, who also have those connections with Roman. I think the intrigue for the Royal Rumble, the build for the Royal Rumble, is as big as it's been in a long, long time, if not ever.
I would agree. And what I'm excited for is, like you mentioned, we're going to see some very interesting matchups. WWE is going to tease us with a lot of interesting matchups. If you guys remember last year, we saw Cody Rhodes in the ring with Gunther, and that was fireworks. Like, I'm really excited to see how WWE kind of teases potential matchups, just to see if the crowd's going to get behind it. If we see Brock Lesnar make his return and throw out Gunther, or Jey Uso Gunther, like even Gunther and Seth last night felt like a big deal. Granted, Seth was injured. Like, this is a very exciting time, and WWE has a lot of superstars they can play with to really create some magic.
Yo, yeah. What if it's Punk and Cody? They're the last two left with number 30 still to go, and then Brock Lesnar's music hits.
I mean, that's
crazy.
You breaking the internet. You breaking the internet. I expect Brock.
Nobody wants Brock Lesnar to win. Nobody wants Brock to win that match.
I'm never mad with Brock. I mean, I don't want Brock coming again, but like, I don't know. Brock is entertaining to me every time I see Brock.
You hear Brock's music, you know somebody getting their ass kicked. Like, it's about to be crazy. It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I mean, the Rumble itself. Let's start with our predictions before we get to this other wild card. We just talked about the men's Rumble a little bit, so let's shift over to the women's Rumble, because a lot of intrigue there too. Becky Lynch, she had her stare down with Rhea Ripley, and that might be the biggest money women's match. I mean, you talk about maybe the biggest women's wrestler now against perhaps the biggest women's wrestler ever. You have Bianca Belair still in the mix. You have Bayley, who has the natural storyline with Io Sky. We haven't seen Jade's debut in WWE yet. The Rumble's a perfect place for that. And then the way they built up Nia Jax, I think they've done a good job making her credible.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to start with the women. I want to see Bayley and Io Sky. I think that'll be an incredible WrestleMania match between them. On the men's side, listen, the Rollins injury just throws a lot of question marks in the air of, like, if he's going to be healthy, could he do it? So, like, if Punk wins, where does he go? There is a lot of, like, intrigue. To me, I still think it's CM Punk. He is the biggest star in the company. He should be main eventing one of the 2 nights of WrestleMania, whoever that's against. So for me, it's got to be Punk.
Yeah,
I'll start with the women. Did you have anything to say about the women?
Yeah, about to say,
you're great. Listen, that story and I want to see that. Like I said, I think Bayley should win it, and they should finish that storyline really strong.
Misogynist.
What?
Yeah,
no, right over them.
I love Bianca. I would love Bianca to win. I would love Bianca to win. She'd be the first, 2-time winner, I believe. But I got to give it to Bayley. I think it's her time. I think WWE has done a good job as far as making Rhea Ripley the top dog. And I know they're teasing her and Becky Lynch. It's probably a lock. It's probably going to be Becky. But for someone who could really use that push, someone who's been loyal to the brand for so long, I think it'd be a really cool moment to see Bayley be the one to point at that WrestleMania sign. I think the fans would really be excited about it. Becky doesn't need a Royal Rumble win to start a feud with Rhea Ripley. They're both on the same brand. It is what it is. A couple smack talks, and then maybe she wins the Elimination Chamber, gets her shot at WrestleMania. But as far as the Royal Rumble moment, I think it's Bayley's time.
Well, that's where having multiple titles makes it a little bit more unpredictable, because if it was just one, yeah, Becky would have to win the Royal Rumble in order to logically get there. But she doesn't. Bayley has that storyline that she's had with Damage Control. And that could work itself out there. Just like we were saying, back to your men, Seb, with Punk and Rollins possibly. That would be Punk winning, I think. But you've got the other element of who are they actually going after? Are they going after Seth's belt, or are they going after Roman?
I think the other interesting thing is if Bayley wins, there is always the opportunity where she could potentially like win the title early, and then Sasha Banks comes back, and you have Sasha and Bayley, which would be an incredible match. Like there is a lot of intrigue. I just think Bayley is the natural like choice, and as Jean said, like she deserves this moment. She's been there so long. I think she's the only one of the 4 horsewomen who hasn't had a WrestleMania like main events. Like she's earned this. She's been there for so long, and like the fans truly love her, no matter whether she's been a good guy or a bad guy. Like people respect Bayley and respect her work ethic and everything she's about.
Now, I know you both like Gunther. We did talk about that. What about him having one of those dominant performances and winning and challenging Seth? Both Cody and Punk don't win. That sets up Cody and Punk, and then you've got Roman and Rock.
I'm not mad at it. Listen,
I agree with that. Oh.
I've said this forever. Like Gunther to me was Wrestler of the Year. He's been an incredible IC champion. Like putting him against almost anybody, you're gonna get an incredible match. So like you can kind of put him anywhere. He's like the ultimate like chess piece on the board. So yeah, I do think that is 3 great matches. The problem with that for me is like, and I know everyone's gonna say like the Cody story, like whatever, but like to me, like Cody deserves the main event against Roman. He just does. Like for everything he's done for the past year, being the guy carrying the company, and everyone wants to see him finish his story, win the WWE championship. Like, don't make us wait any longer. Don't push this down again another year. It's like it's going to become so frustrating if they don't give us that ending for Cody. He deserves that.
I disagree. He deserves it. But did you forget this man start? Like, I love Cody Rhodes. He's one of my favorite wrestlers right now. This man started AEW, man. He left the company. What do you mean he deserves it? Like, what are you talking about?
It's AEW fans who keep saying that, by the way, because they see their guy who left. He's like sort of their conquering hero coming back. So the guys who are like the most adamant about Cody finishing his story, I think, are AEW fans. To me, Cody's a bigger deal than he's ever been. It's not even close. They got him out there kissing babies. They got him on the cover of WWE 2K. We're talking about him like he's at the same level as a Roman Reigns or whatnot. So I think it's hogwash. Anybody who says that Cody suffered from losing last year. This has been the biggest year of Cody Rhodes' career.
It would have been bigger, Robin. It would have been bigger.
I don't
Had he had that belt, it would have been bigger.
No, I think that the title would have felt
kind
of lame and whack if he had gotten it last.
No, it wouldn't have been. He is the most likable babyface I've probably ever seen since Rey Mysterio. Like, you cannot boo this man. This dude is doing everything right. And you know that title across his shoulder,
right? Where he's somehow that square and that much of a baby face.
You know why? Hang on, I'll tell you why he's such a baby face. He saved pro wrestling, and I will fight anyone tooth and nail on this. That man, yes, he created a new company, and that was the best thing that ever happened to pro wrestling because it got more jobs for all the boys and girls in the business. It made the storylines much more intriguing. It created a little bit of a hardcore fan base between the two, which is always good. WCW fans and WWE fans were the same way. We didn't have Twitter back then, but regardless, like people still were fighting that same way. And so like he's done just an incredible job for the whole aspect of pro wrestling. So like, yes, that's why I say he deserves it. Because it's not just like, oh yeah, he started AEW. It's like, yeah, the WWE shouldn't like reward him for that. Forget that. He has made pro wrestling better for everybody, and he deserves it because of that. That is why to me, he is unbooable because all he's done is proven over and over again that he cares about this business and he's going to do what's best for everybody.
I could make a case Tony Khan made pro wrestling better for everybody because his emotional decisions has led to that big moment we saw yesterday with Punk and Cody Rhodes.
But Tony Khan never gets into it unless Cody starts that tweet with All In with the Bucks and getting that 10,000 sold out arena.
Oh, I love Cody. It's just I feel like the WrestleMania main event being deserving to him right now. I've kind of granted he's the top guy right now, but the whole let's just give it to Cody. To me, I'm not with that. I'm not with it.
By the way, I did not want Cody to win last year, and I felt it would have felt handed to him, and I felt he was kind of like just. I've gained a ton of respect for him over the past year, and I wouldn't mind him winning now. So I'm an exhibit A of someone who has been won over by Cody in the past year, and it has nothing to do with AEW. Though I agree with your point, Sep. I'm pointing at the wrong one of you because of the way this is formatted. But I agree with your point, Sep, that AEW, whether it survives long-term or is on a downward spiral, did make WWE have to step up its game.
I guess the last big thing we have to talk about is the rumor of Hulk Hogan and won't he show up in the Rumble? From my point of view, I know the reaction will be great if he does, but I have zero interest in seeing Hulk Hogan wrestle in any form in the year 2024. No, thank you. There are so many other legends and people that they could bring out for surprises. Hulk Hogan to me, hard pass.
Yeah, it's a hard pass for me too. Remember when Shane pulled up to WrestleMania a couple years ago, tore his ATL in like 2 seconds? Like, that's what's going to happen to Hogan if he gets in the ring, especially if he gets in the ring like Gunther. Actually, you know what? I do hope Hogan gets in the ring, because if I can see Hulk Hogan catch a chop from Gunther, like 4 or 5 chops from Gunther, I'm a happy man. So yeah, Hulk, come in the ring, test your will with some of these young bucks, and let's see what happens. But yeah,
bring Hulk Hogan to the Rumble. Absolutely, Hulk Hogan should be in the Rumble. It's the perfect thing for that. You hit that dun 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 dun. He comes in, throws a couple scrubs out, and then puts over one of the big guys like Gunther, taking some chops, getting thrown over the top. I mean, it's the only match he could feasibly do at his age right now.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It is the only match that he could do at his age that would make sense, but he still shouldn't do it. Like, is a reason that nobody wants to see Hulk Hogan for the majority. I shouldn't say there are definitely people who want to see Hulk Hogan, but like, I think the majority of people are just kind of, listen, he had his career, he had his run. Like, you are an old man now. Like, please don't hurt yourself. Don't do it. We're good.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only reason we're talking about it is because he did the promo. They've like some anniversary for Hulk Hogan coming up. He did the promo.
I think it's what, 30, 40 years of Hulkamania.
He'll be everywhere. We're going to see him plenty.
And there are plenty of reasons for people to be critical of Hulk Hogan, but let's keep it real. I mean, the business is what it is because of him in large part. I mean, him slamming Andre at WrestleMania 3 still might be the biggest moment in history, and he's the biggest he was the first crossover star, I should say.
I agree. I got nothing else to add about Hulk Hogan. I agree with all those points.
No, I do want to see the man get a couple chops from Gunther, though. I would not.
That point did win me over a little bit, Gene. I wouldn't be mad at seeing that.
You know, I mean,
wait. Hulk Hogan, he can't do the finger wag to the Gunther chops, right? Like, he's got to eat the Gunther chops.
Oh, of course.
He's got to sell them, right? Like,
he might not be able to. How do we know he can even withstand? What's the last time he took a chop to the chest? They hit a little harder now.
We'll see.
I don't think that's going to work for me, brother. Anyhow, final Royal Rumble predictions for this weekend, the big event, including let's predict the Fatal 4-Way too. So for the men, I'll say it comes down to I'm gonna mix it up. I'll go for a wild card. Gunther throws out CM Punk and Cody Rhodes simultaneously to win the Royal Rumble.
All right, I'll say Brock, Gunther, Cody, Punk, Final 4. Gunther throws out Brock. Punk throws out Gunther. And Cody throws out Punk. That's my final prediction.
Final four. I got Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Gunther. And you got the final 2. I got Gunther throwing out Cody. I got CM Punk throwing out Gunther, and CM Punk, like he promised a few weeks ago, throwing out Drew McIntyre last on his way to WrestleMania to face Seth Rollins. That's my prediction.
I do have to think that CM Punk is really the odds-on favorite, if I'm being real. There's also the possibility of MJF showing up at the Royal Rumble. I don't think you could ignore it. Except you shake your head no, but the way that they got rid of him out of AEW at the end, he was losing matches. We know his contract was up in the air. Some of the sports books or the offshore books have moved the odds in his favor. I'm not saying it's happening, but I don't think you could just dismiss it summarily.
I would be genuinely stunned. In a world of pro wrestling that sometimes leaves us stunned, I'd be genuinely stunned. I was at his last match in AEW when he left and Samoa Joe won the belt. And that match was, to me, was not about somebody leaving the company. I mean, he is still the biggest star they have, and I would hope and feel fairly confident that they re-signed him and he will show up later this summer or later this year after he's finally healed up from all these injuries. I mean, if you read the article he wrote on the Players Tribune, where he really opened up about like his reign and everything he's gone through, like he clearly, like his shoulder, his hip, he needed like legit time off to really rest and recoup. He's been working injured for a long time. And so clearly, like, unless he was lying to all of us in that story, which is very possible, and like that's his way to surprise everyone, which would be insane. I just think he needs time off, and I really, really hope he stays in AEW because I think that'll be best for AEW. I think AEW is his home, and that promotion needs a guy like MJF.
I don't know, man. We just saw CM Punk make his return after 10 years. Anything can happen, man. Like once that clock hits 0, anybody could bust through those curtains, man. So I'm not gonna say he is gonna show up, but I'm also not gonna say he isn't, because anything can happen. We've seen crazier things. MJF showing up to WWE. We've seen AJ Styles make his debut there. We saw Edge make his return there. You know, like it's possible. The WWE is known, like, if we're in WrestleMania season, like, it's time to bring out the big guns. And if MJF is one of them, I would not be surprised if he's it.
And for the women's rumble, you got the possibility of Sasha showing up. I think Jade makes her debut and cleans house for a minute there. And I'm going to go with Becky throwing out Nia Jax to win it.
I like it.
Works for me.
And then Fatal 4-Way, I think they made that a little bit more interesting than just a Roman one-on-one match could be. Because this is, if they were going to get the title off Roman without him losing, this is how they would do it. And when you could give it to Randy Orton to possibly set up with Cody. But ultimately, I think Roman wins again.
Yeah, Roman's definitely winning. That is the lock of the century.
That would put a shocker to me if Roman is not walking into WrestleMania with the title. If you're telling me Randy Orton's about to take that belt from Roman, dog, that would shock me. It would be the biggest shocker.
That would be Undertaker losing it at like WrestleMania shocking. That's how shocked I am.
My jaw would drop. My jaw would drop. If Roman loses this title in any way, whether he's the one who gets pinned, whether he loses by someone else and he's not the champion, I couldn't. It would be the biggest shock.
So none of these things ever go as planned, and this is the first episode of the Needle, at least our full-length episode. So if you heard any rumblings and shakings from my end, it's because Big Ro, I'm watching him here. This is Ro. Ro, who's your favorite wrestler?
Say CM Punk.
CM Punk?
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Big Ro is our tribal chief. We all love Big Ro.
You want to acknowledge Big Ro?
Always.